I left my husband. I hit marriage burnout after 6.5 years of being married. I let my husband know that I love him very, very much, but I just need a break from being your wife. I missed being his girlfriend. I missed only worrying about myself and nobody else. I missed alone time. I really missed just peace and quiet, sitting in a room without anyone or anything around me. I didn't know what was going on at the time. I felt this strong urge of needing to live alone. I told my husband that I don't want a separation. I don't want a divorce. I want to stay married, but I also want alone time. And I was so scared to ask him for this. I didn't know how to approach it. I didn't know how to have the conversation. For months, weeks leading up to the moment that I actually brought it up to him, I was journaling every day that I just want more space. I want to know who I am. I want to pour all of my energy into myself. It was a really confusing time. So I'm making this video because if any of you out there are in a long-term relationship and you have a very healthy relationship and you're in love, but you're craving some alone time, you may be experiencing what I went through, which now that I'm through the journey and on the other side, realize that I was simply going through a spiritual awakening. So let's dive in. So spiritual awakenings can either be subtle, they could be just a little sparks of inspiration, a little awareness here and there, or they can completely disrupt your life and require a full 180 shift of everything that you have going on. And that's kind of what happened with me. I didn't realize that I was living a life so out of alignment with who I truly am. So when my spiritual awakening happened, it felt like my entire life was being ripped out from under me and I was left with nothing. So back to the conversation that I had with my husband. At that time, I had my own business. I was the founder of Friendship Club. It was doing great. I had awesome friends. We would hang out every weekend. We would go to festivals and it was just a really fun time. But when my husband and I first decided to live in our own apartments and when I moved out and I told my friends, I felt like I lost everyone overnight. My parents didn't understand what I was doing. My friends didn't understand what I was doing. And my husband and I were really navigating this new way of being and living and connecting. And my business was not doing so great. Like COVID was coming back around. It was December 2021. And I remember that all the venues and all the events were getting shut down. I hit a rock bottom back in November 2021. That moment for me, now looking back, was my dark night of the soul. And it was an invitation for me to either do what I normally do, which is lean into my coping mechanisms, drink my problems away, fill up my calendar with as many people as I can see so that I'm running away from my emotions. What I did instead was I actually chose not to drink. I chose not to scroll and I chose to sit and feel my emotions. It was truly like an intuitive thing because I never really learned how to feel my emotions. I've always been the type of person who like pushes them away and doesn't want to disrupt the peace. So I just swallow everything. But I was alone and I didn't have anyone around me. And for the first time in my life, I had no excuse but to sit and feel what was coming up to be felt. And now that I coach people on healing, I tell them if it's coming up, it is coming up for you to heal it and alchemize it into wisdom. I am so proud of the version of me, December 2021, who was sitting in the murkiest shadows of the depths of my soul, remembering so much random stuff. Like all of my childhood wounds started coming up, my past sexual experiences that were not pleasant to think about, things that I like didn't even remember. Everything, it was as if the floodgates had opened, the jig was up, And I had no other choice but to sort through all of my emotional baggage and pick and choose what I wanted to keep and what I wanted to get rid of, and learn all of the lessons that I came to learn. From like October 2021, I want to say until March, like 6 months almost of just me deep in my feels, isolated from everyone around me, except my husband, who I did see on the weekends, and we hung out and it was great. But we had boundaries set where we're not allowed to talk about what we're going through, because we really wanted to give each other the freedom and the autonomy to go through our transformations on our own and come back together when we felt like we were ready. You know, we still hung out on the weekends, but we kept it very light and fresh and fun with date nights, as if we were like newly dating again, and we weren't so enmeshed in each other's worlds and lives. Of course, I shared things here and there. He shared things here and there, but we didn't do what we normally did, which was try to save the other person. We really learned how to create space and just hear what the other person is saying and going through, and using that as a mirror to reflect what that means within my own self. Marriage is such a beautiful, intimate thing, because what he was going through at work, it mirrored exactly what I was going through with my family. As he was learning lessons on stepping into his power at work, it empowered me to step into my power with my family. It was such a beautiful experience, and we still do that now, but in that moment, it was like the first time I was consciously aware of this happening between us. It really made me realize how energetic a marriage is, like how energetically connected you guys are. And even though we weren't together physically, I felt closer to him than ever before, because we were just connected on that soul level. And it was just purely magical, without saving each other, without helping each other, without fixing each other, without coaching each other, simply observing him in his world and him creating the space to observe me in mine. I'm telling you guys, like, living in our own apartments and having those boundaries and living that way was the most romantic time of our entire marriage. It was so eye-opening and fun to dive into the way his mind works, the way he navigates his own challenges, and the way he makes mistakes and learns from them and steps into a version of himself that I just feel like he wouldn't have been able to if I tried to mother him and coach him and tried to save him. And same with me. Like, there were so many moments where I was deep in my feels, deep in my trauma, and all I wanted was him to come over and hug me and hold me. But at the same time, I didn't reach out to him for that, because I really wanted to prove to myself that I'm a full adult, full individual, independent human, and I can take care of myself. We were on a journey of finding true safety and security in our own bodies, in our own selves, in our full individualized selves, so that we didn't need each other for bare necessities. We simply wanted to have the choice and the freedom to be together, if that makes sense. This entire process, when I was living in my own apartment and he was living in his own apartment, it allowed us to remember that we are two whole individuals. I think what marriage does is it gives you the illusion that when you get married, you meet your other half and you become whole once you're married. That's how we lived for about 6 years of our marriage, until we both realized that we both are fully capable of more. Like, he wanted to be able to cook for himself, take care of himself. He didn't like me being in that role that was like nurturing him, taking care of him. And he also didn't enjoy seeing me not fully expressed in my full potential. And same with me. Like, I wanted to make my own money. I wanted to take care of myself. I wanted to have the freedom that men have to be able to chase their careers without having this like invisible mental burden on my shoulders. Like, marriage burnout is a real thing. And I think that when we hit that point, a lot of people think that the relationship is the issue, when in reality, it could just be the dynamics of the relationship that are the issue, that need a reevaluation and need space to shift and change and evolve and grow. I think a lot of times people think that happily ever after is this made up thing, and it doesn't exist. But like, my husband is definitely my Prince Charming, right? Like, I was a pure classic Cinderella story in a house where I was like basically the maid, always the scapegoat, all the things. My husband was truly like my Prince Charming, like my glitch in the Matrix, like the guy who came on a white horse to save me from the hellfire, which was my upbringing and my childhood and my home. The thing is that fairy tales only tell you what happens up until you get married, and then it's happily ever after. What they don't tell you is what happens after happily ever after in order to sustain and maintain that happily ever after. So when my husband and I, like for the first 6 years, yes, we were in these gender roles that weren't authentic to who we were, but our relationship was our source of joy, our source of pure bliss. Like, our relationship was not perfect, and we fought, and it was ugly, and we cried, and it was just like every other relationship, and fighting and this and that and arguments. However, he was my safe landing place. Like, I always felt so incredibly safe with him. I always knew that he was my person. I always knew that like we were just connected on a really deep level, even though I didn't feel that energetic connection until we lived apart and did that whole experience, where I really got to connect with his soul. I really got to see him beyond just like physical Adnan, and I got to see like, who am I truly married to? What is your mind like? What is your nervous system like? What are your hopes and dreams? What are your fears, right? Like, we really got to go deep when we dated again by living apart, because we weren't really talking about like life and this and that the way we were when we were living together. It truly gave us a blank slate to ask questions as if we were dating again. And it was so fun, and really getting to know each other on a whole new level. It felt like we got to do like a full relationship reset and date again, and then consciously choose each other again. And we gave each other that freedom too. Like, hey, if we're growing in different directions, it's going to be so incredibly sad, but I do know that he was in my life for a reason. And he brought me so much confidence and joy and empowerment, and saved me from a version of my life that I needed to get out of. And if that was the whole purpose of our relationship, I would still consider that a massively successful relationship. And thank God we did decide to stay connected and go on the journey and continue along our path. And now our marriage keeps getting stronger every single day, and we're living together again here in LA, and it's magical and it's amazing, and we have learned so much from living apart that we integrate and embody every single day. And I'm just so grateful for that experience, because it really feels like we got a new chance at doing life right. It really gave us a chance to just like become whoever we wanted to be, and share new versions of ourselves with each other, and fall in love all over again. And it's just, I'm so grateful that October 2021 version of me took that leap, got her own apartment, cried herself for months and months and months and months, until she finally found herself and stood up on her own 2 feet, reclaimed her power, stopped settling for breadcrumbs, and really used the power of her voice to speak up and share who she is, what she likes, what she doesn't like, what she wants, what she doesn't want. Was able to rebuild this beautifully intimate, authentic relationship with the man that meant the world to me. And he was so open and receptive to navigate these ebbs and flows and challenges with me. Like, just that alone, I will never forget that. And I'm so eternally grateful to have a man who was open and patient and receptive and understanding. And not to say that it was perfect. Like, we fought a lot. Even when we were living apart, there were so many moments where I was like, you're not understanding me. We're not connecting. I'm going to go to my own place. And it was so nice to be able to have that, right? To like have a place of my own, to create space when we're not connecting. And then I would process all my emotions. He would process his emotions. And then we would call each other and share like, hey, like I got really heated. I got really aggressive. I'm really sorry. This is where this is coming from. We really talked on such a deeply intimate, vulnerable, honest way that we never did when we were living together the first time around. Like creating that physical space apart allowed us to really take accountability for our own emotions, our own triggers, our own thought process, our own like way of life, and grow and like mature and stop blaming them for all of our emotions, because that space when I went into solitude in my own apartment would be like my sacred space to be like, well, what the heck just happened? Where did that come from? Why did that happen? I got to connect the dots to my past, my childhood experiences, my relationships with my caregivers, my relationships with my siblings, my relationships with my own essence, and saved not just my marriage, but more importantly, me. It helped me come back home to who I am and why I'm here, and just like found my sense of purpose and my joy, and I tapped into my creativity and I healed my inner child. I really got to purge all of the emotional baggage that was stuck in my body, and I got to energetically feel so much lighter and feel a sense of inner peace that I never even thought was possible. I was so bogged down in victim consciousness for so long, and for the first time I had no choice but to be accountable for my own bullshit. Really just own it. And it was so scary to look in the mirror like that, but at the same time it was the most liberating and empowering thing at the same time. If any of you guys are feeling the call and the urge to go into solitude or be alone or to travel or to just be in isolation, just know that it's not happening to you. It truly is happening for you. And I know that sounds like such a typical thing to say, but from my own lived experience, I am telling you, it saved my life. And it saved my creativity. It saved my inner child joy. It saved my relationship with the man that I love. It just shifted everything. And I have never been more at peace, knowing who I am, why I'm here, what I'm here to do. And I want that for everyone. I want all of us to feel that sense of like, oh, I belong. I'm here for a reason, and I'm excited to get to work. So that's just my quick little story about how I left my husband and found myself. And I hope that inspires some of you guys to put yourself first, even if it's just for a little while, to figure out who you are and what you came here to do. Maybe reconnect with your partner in a deeply intimate way like we have. If you guys need some guidance and support, I do coach women alone or with a partner, and I help you tap back into that feminine energy and that essence, unlock your creativity and your joy from within so that you can transform your external reality, whether that's in your career, your impact that you want to have on the world, or in your most intimate relationships with yourself and your partner and your community. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. This Thursday, I have a very special podcast interview coming out with a guest, and we talk all about what does it actually mean to be authentic, what is authentic love, and how can we actually thrive in conscious relationships. So stay tuned for that. Hit subscribe, hit like, and I'll see you guys next time.